faithfully delivering value and interpreting the world's best books. Hi, this is Sally here with Book Talk. Today, we're interpreting the book Future Company for you. These past couple of years, sharing economy has blown up big time. In 2017, 7 out of the top 20 global unicorn companies were in the sharing economy. They promote sharing over buying, representing the trend of future business. Therefore, these companies are also known as future companies. Among these future companies, the leader is a super unicorn. Its valuation once reached $68 billion, dominating the global top spot. It's one of the pioneers of the sharing economy. Uber's valuation is staggering, showing the world the vast future of the sharing economy. Suddenly, sharing economy projects like shared power banks, shared gyms, shared fridges, shared umbrellas, and other weird ones came one after another, suggesting that everything in the world could be shared. Although many companies adopt the sharing economy model, they die quickly. Why can't they surge ahead smoothly, while most suffer heavy losses? Where exactly is Uber's core value? How did it manage to start a business spread globally in less than 10 years? And why, despite burning money and losing, did investors flock to it? This book will uncover the answers for you. The author of this book, Adam Lashinsky, is the executive editor of Fortune magazine and the author of the 2012 New York Times bestseller Inside Apple. He conducted exclusive interviews with Uber's founder, Kalanick, and other insiders, completing the first work that reveals the internal operations of Uber's business empire, telling the story of the company's ambition to conquer the future. Next, I'll break down Uber's entrepreneurial myth for you from 4 aspects. First, Uber's founding history. Second, what's special about Uber's sharing economy? Third, the specific tactics Uber used to expand in the markets. Fourth, what troubles did Uber encounter? First, let's look at Uber's founding history. Uber's founder and CEO is Travis Kalanick. However, the idea for creating Uber wasn't Kalanick's. It was from his friend, a software designer named Garrett Camp. At the start of the story, Camp was angered by San Francisco taxi companies. In San Francisco, hailing a taxi was particularly difficult. You had to call taxi companies to book a ride. Usually you'd have to wait half an hour for a car to arrive, and sometimes it wouldn't show up at all, which really infuriated Camp. After several communications, the taxi company actually blacklisted him. That year was 2007, when Apple launched the first iPhone. Great moments often come together, which gave Camp a sudden inspiration. He came up with an idea that later became widely known. Why can't we just use a phone to hail a cab? Well, as an engineer, Camp discovered that the iPhone had a hidden technology that could spark a new revolution: the built-in accelerometer. This motion sensor, a standard feature in flight navigation systems, was first used in phones to accurately track trips when combined with GPS. Phones could not only locate cars but also monitor their speed. If passengers and drivers used this directly, it would eliminate taxi dispatchers and accurately predict arrival times. Back then, this was just Camp's idea. In 2008, Camp and his good friend Kalanick attended a meeting in Paris. On a snowy night, they stood on a Paris street, unable to get any car. That night, they climbed to the Eiffel Tower summit through snow and passionately decided to create a company fulfilling their wish to hail rides with a phone swipe. Thus, Uber was born. Up to this point, Uber only aimed to make hailing easier through technology, not yet embracing the sharing economy model. So, so how did it discover and master the sharing economy? Now let's discuss part 2, Uber's sharing economy. We mentioned Camp conceived the phone hailing idea, yet Kalanick became Uber's famous leader. Why? Because Kalanick contributed Uber's core concept: sharing. Initially, Camp believed they needed to buy many cars, hire drivers, and rent garages. But Kalanick advised him, hey, none of that's necessary. He proposed making Uber an operating platform matching demand with others' vehicles, letting private drivers directly use the app for pickups. Wouldn't that make them Uber's free agents? Uh, this is Uber's core business model, leveraging others' assets to create value for itself. Kalanick didn't come up with this idea on a whim. It wasn't a stroke of genius. It stemmed from his experiences with two failed startups, laying the groundwork for the sharing economy. In his mind, it was like a jigsaw puzzle. His prior entrepreneurial experiences had him accumulating pieces over time. When Uber emerged, all the elements came together perfectly, allowing the sharing economy concept to be born. But let's briefly trace Kalanick's entrepreneurial history. Kalanick was born in Los Angeles into an ordinary middle-income family. His father was a civil engineer who cultivated Kalanick's engineering mindset, influenced by his dad. Kalanick was a workaholic who juggled part-time jobs like telemarketing, sales, training workshops, and teaching. Uh, and these experiences shaped him step by step into an entrepreneur. His first startup was Scour, a website he created during college. In 1997, personal computers didn't have firewalls. All dorm computers were on the same network, allowing file sharing without passwords. So, Scour created a platform for sharing multimedia resources, becoming the world's first peer-to-peer file download search engine. The site itself had no resources. It merely facilitated the flow of others' resources to gain commercial benefits. Eventually, the site was sued by 29 Hollywood companies for copyright infringement and declared bankruptcy. Kalanick then started his second venture, Red Swoosh, an enterprise software for transferring large video files online. This transmission model didn't rely on investing in thousands of servers or global data centers. Instead, it used the idle space on personal computers for computation. Later, the company's funding dried up, and Kalanick became so poor he had to move back home, living off his parents for 6 years without income. Looking back, these two ventures were directly linked to the later Uber. Scour shared others' multimedia resources. Red Swoosh shared idle computer space. This time it was cars instead of media or computers. It can be said that Uber's success wasn't a sudden leap from 0 to 1, but a gradual accumulation from 0.1 to 1. It was precisely that zero point 0.1 foundation laid by his two previous failed startups that enabled Kalanick to easily conceive the sharing model. This is also why he could perceive the essence of the sharing economy better than other entrepreneurs. Ever since Uber blew up, sharing economy has become a trendy buzzword in entrepreneurship, with endless sharing projects popping up, dazzling everyone. So, can everything be shared? Of course not. Take Uber as an example. It grasped three key elements of the sharing economy: standardization, light assets, and high value. Let's analyze them one by one. First, the sharing economy model requires standardized products, which determines that many products and services can't operate under this model. Oh, for instance, ride hailing is a service that can be standardized. You just need to get from point A to B, regardless of whether it's a Mercedes or BMW picking you up. Thus, vehicles can serve as standardized, undifferentiated transport for passengers. That's precisely why Uber developed a back-end algorithm to automatically match vehicles and passengers, dispatching the nearest car, fully automated without manual intervention. This model only works when cars are treated as standardized products. As a counterexample, some companies launched shared home kitchens to provide meals for busy workers. This is a non-standardizable product. Food is highly personalized, increasing friction between parties, and frequent platform intervention reduces operational efficiency. Non-standardized products and services struggle to expand rapidly in the sharing economy market, like Uber did. Second, sharing economy companies typically adopt light asset models. whereas heavy asset industries like energy and railways were traditional darlings. But in the internet era, light assets are key. Many misunderstand the sharing economy. Proliferating shared products, bikes, power banks, are actually just timeshare rentals. True sharing economy isn't about buying assets to rent out, but mobilizing existing resources to improve utilization of idle capacity. Simply put, it improves industry efficiency rather than increasing supply. For example, Uber hasn't increased the number of vehicles on the road, yet it satisfies more people's transportation needs. Under traditional heavy asset business models, a company's expansion capability is always limited, with marginal benefits decreasing as investment increases. But in the sharing economy's light asset model, the marginal cost disappears. It requires no production or investment. All it needs to do is precisely match users with resources. A striking comparison: Hilton Hotels, financially strong, is a typical heavy asset company covering 90 plus countries with 667,000 rooms and 160,000 employees. Meanwhile, Airbnb, a shared accommodation platform, owns no hotels yet, covers 190 plus countries with 1.2 million available rooms and only 1,600 employees, just 1% of Hilton's workforce. Most critically, its valuation even surpassed Hilton Hotels. Third, high value: the shared resource must offer substantial value to consumers. Achieving convenience and low cost through sharing. Take cars. People find buying expensive, parking scarce, and maintenance troublesome. This creates demand for ride hailing. Spending a few dollars on Uber versus tens of thousands on a new car, that gap forms the market. But if the product itself has low value, a sharing model becomes unsustainable. For instance, shared lighters and umbrellas once appeared on the market. These low value items are cheap to replace if lost. The value derived from sharing such products is extremely limited. Thus, standardization, light assets, and high value determine that not all products can wear the sharing economy label. This is Uber's lesson for us. However, finding the right business model is just the first step. Actual expansion requires concrete tactics. Next, we'll break down Uber's tactical combo for market expansion. Uber expanded city by city with its first move called City Strike Teams. As mentioned, Uber prefers traveling light, not just in assets, but also management. Whenever entering a new city, they don't build a large ground force, but recruit an elite squad with diverse skills that collaborate seamlessly. The squad has three roles: a city manager responsible for overall city strategy, a marketing manager handling media and clients, and an operations manager recruiting drivers. Sending just these three might seem understaffed, but their efficiency is extremely high due to high flexibility and smooth, rapid communication. Usually, Uber HQ grants this squad ample authority and resources, enabling them to showcase their talents as soon as they enter a market. For example, when Uber entered China, the squad was given such permissions. They could spend up to 150 yuan per new registered user. As long as it's within this 150 yuan budget, they could do whatever they wanted. This fully unleashed the squad's vitality, allowing local adaptation and bold experimentation without constant reporting to superiors. Over the past few years, Uber dispatched three-person squads to hundreds of cities worldwide. Relying on this set of efficient and flexible tactics, they successfully activated markets everywhere. After opening up the market, the next step was to fulfill orders. Uber's second move is called dynamic pricing, which is Uber's most criticized tactic. Initially, Uber imitated traditional business by offering peak hour discounts for promotion, but this caused passenger numbers to far exceed drivers and vehicles, sparking widespread dissatisfaction. So Uber introduced a highly controversial mechanism called dynamic pricing. Simply put, it's crude. Raise prices when demand is high, lower them when low. Whoever pays more gets a ride, with back-end data automatically adjusting prices until supply and demand balance. This price gouging practice has been heavily criticized. For instance, during a terrorist attack in London years ago, local Uber prices surged dramatically, sparking protests and criticism. Uber was accused of profiteering from disaster. Even normally, sudden price hikes are hard to accept. That Uber ignored the criticism. In Kalanick's eyes, anyone complaining about dynamic pricing was an idiot who didn't understand supply and demand laws. Though harshly worded, dynamic pricing has indeed proven the precision of price regulation in markets. Uber used a comparative case to illustrate how effective dynamic pricing is. In March 2015, after a packed concert in Manhattan, New York, Uber usage in the area quadrupled within minutes. Dynamic pricing kicked in, maintaining a 100% ride completion rate. Conversely, on New Year's Eve 2014, when dynamic pricing crashed for 26 minutes, ride completion rates plummeted below 25%. So while price hikes are unpopular, they work. Business is cold-hearted. Uber sticks with dynamic pricing despite backlash to maintain efficient supply-demand matching. Just as people marveled at Uber disrupting the ride-hailing industry, it swiftly launched its third move, expansion. Future, Uber's ambitions extend far beyond ride-hailing. This small niche can't contain its vision. From the start, Kalanick envisioned Uber surpassing ordinary taxi services. Ride-hailing alone is too limited for true scalability. To Kalanick, Uber is a logistics platform, transporting more than people. It's about strong network effects in economics. Once a robust network, whether user or delivery, is built, marginal costs decrease. This network can spawn endless new ventures. So, Uber formed a team dedicated to brainstorming ideas, exploring beyond passenger transport. They dreamed up Uber dry cleaning, Uber anti-pollution painting, Uber drone delivery, and more. City squads were encouraged to develop new concepts, like one-tap helicopter calls, yacht bookings, expanding to land, sea, and air. Some cities even offered summon and armored truck experiences, letting lucky citizens ride with millions in cash. The most successful spinoff was Uber Eats, quickly becoming its second largest service after ride-hailing. Uber even developed autonomous driving to compete with Tesla. Some ventures didn't align with Uber's strengths. Others felt like gimmicks. Still, restless Uber won't settle. It perpetually targets infinite future possibilities. However, expanding business layouts and the future all require money. Creativity is valuable, but costs are even higher. Uber hasn't even turned a profit yet. Why are so many investors flocking to a company that doesn't make money? That brings us to his fourth move, old spending. Burning cash isn't anything new. In the internet sector, many companies try to grow big by burning cash early on, but often they're playing with fire and end up losing everything. So how did Uber burn its cash? First, let's understand the three ways companies expand. Usually, cash burning happens in these three areas. The first is speed, acting fast to capture the market before competitors. The second is liquidity, increasing transaction volumes to turn over goods and services quickly for rapid monetization. The third is growth potential, the company's development momentum. Most companies burn cash to gain either speed, liquidity, or growth potential. So which one did Uber trade cash for? It traded for all three. The first fire burns for speed. While Uber's competitors in the US were still fussing over local markets, Uber quickly went global, securing the worldwide market first. The second fire burns for liquidity. To generate more orders, Uber heavily subsidized drivers and passengers, cultivating market consumption habits. The third fire burns for growth potential. Uber's R&D expenses grew even faster than operational costs. It focused on improving software performance and constantly upgrading user experience. With these three fires burning simultaneously in 6 years, it burned through $9 billion from 15 rounds of funding and $1.6 billion in loans, a spending speed unprecedented, data driven, and impressive. Data analysis shows that from 2012 to 2015, Uber usage among San Francisco customers increased from twice a month to 15 times, a trend mirrored almost worldwide. This easily explains why investors are so enthusiastic about Uber, because the next step is the winner takes all effect, similar to Google in search and Facebook in social networking. Through bold spending, Uber gained the vast majority of market share in ride hailing. Capital invests in the future. A visionary company prioritizes long term development over short term profits. To summarize briefly, Uber, adhering to the sharing economy concept, relies on city squads, dynamic pricing, future layout, and bold spending. With these four strategies, it conquered the entrepreneurial world in under a decade. But we can't just see the glory without the struggle. Behind Uber's enviable valuation lies constant trouble. Its first major headache was its own co-founder and CEO, Kalanick. Though brilliantly infusing Uber with the sharing economy's soul, he was also an uncompromising Silicon Valley maverick who stirred chaos throughout the company and industry. To succeed, he often cut corners, first hiring trolls to smear competitors, then ignoring business rules and evading regulators. Finally, sexual harassment scandals erupted, leaving the public stunned by the constant drama. The Financial Times questioned, how could someone so lacking in basic human and corporate ethics be allowed to run a company this long? His recklessness cost both the company and himself dearly. Uber's team nearly collapsed as multiple executives resigned and investors collectively demanded Kalanick's removal. As online jokes put it, no CTO, no COO, no CFO, and now no CEO. Uber has achieved its closest state to driverless operation. Though Uber now has a new CEO, whether the transition will succeed remains to be seen. If Uber's first trouble was internal fires, its second was battlefield defeat, specifically in China. In 2013, Uber began its campaign in the Chinese market. Despite dominating globally, Uber suffered a crushing defeat against Didi in China. Didi adopted Uber's business logic almost entirely and burned money even more patiently than Uber. Initially, Didi's rival was another ride-hailing app, KuID, one backed by Tencent, the other by Alibaba, with both giants pouring billions in subsidies annually. Uber initially gloated about avoiding that mess, waiting for them to weaken each other, ready to reap the benefits. Unexpectedly, on Valentine's Day 2015, the two companies merged, making Uber their common enemy. Uber couldn't withstand this. It burned $1 billion in China in just 2 years. Moreover, Didi not only confronted Uber head-on with capital strength, but also launched a rear attack. Didi first invested $100 million in Uber's U.S. competitor, forcing Uber to increase operational costs domestically and weakening its Chinese resources. Then, Didi signed cooperation agreements with two of Uber's competitors in India and Southeast Asia. Media dubbed this Didi-led group the Anti-Uber Alliance. Uber finally buckled, surrendering just 2 years after entering China by selling its operations to Didi. In a blog post, Kalanick admitted China's market was too vast for Uber to conquer. And this wasn't just true in China, but across continental Europe too. Uber faced obstacles in Germany, Spain, and France, where drivers showed little interest in gig work, as people prioritized labor protections. This shows even the best business models aren't universally applicable. Cultural incompatibility is inevitable in global expansion. Despite its flaws, Uber remains an iconic myth of our era. It rewrote value creation rules through sharing principles. Over 80% of future industries may be transformed by the sharing economy. Those who harness the sharing economy's momentum will thrive in this era of mutual benefit. All right, that concludes our interpretation of future company Kalanick and his Uber empire. The reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.